Welcome to the UIAAA Connection podcast. We thank GoFan and VNN, the exclusive sponsors of the UIAAA Connection. Now operating as one combined company, GoFan and VNN offer a seamless experience through digital ticketing and athletic websites. They make it easy to direct fans to one central place for schedules, communication, and tickets for both home and away events. We appreciate GoFan and VNN for their continued support and exclusive sponsorship of the UIAAA Connection podcast.
Welcome back to another edition of the UIAAA Connection. I'm your host, Mark Hutch Hunter. Today we have as our special guest, Camie Oakey, the Assistant Director of Athletics at Union High School out in Roosevelt, Utah. Welcome to the podcast, Camie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Let's have you
Good.
begin by sharing with our audience where you grew up, where you went to college, your first job, etc.
Yeah, I actually was born and raised in Utah. I lived here till I was about 12, just in the South Jordan area. And
Mhm.
when I was 12, my dad took a job in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And so I went to my junior high years in Oklahoma, in Edmond, Oklahoma. And then when I was a freshman, we decided to move down to Dallas. And so I went to high school in the Dallas area at a big 6A school down there, Flower Mound Marcus High School. And then I made the decision I wanted to come back home for college. So I got a basketball scholarship and came back and played at the U of U. And played 4 years there, went to school 5 years, graduated. And then honestly, my very first job, other than like a dinky high school job, was teaching and coaching at Mountain View High School in Orem. So I was hired right out of college to do that.
Okay, so let me have you talk a little bit more because Utah's my alma mater, so I love Utah. Talk
Yeah.
about the years you played there and what a great experience that was.
Yeah, that was probably, I would say, 5 of the most defining years of my life. I was at the University of Utah from the fall of '03, finished playing basketball there spring of '07, and then graduated the following year. So I had to take a fifth year to graduate. Um, I had the opportunity to play for Elaine Elliott, who is
Hmm.
just, I mean, a mastermind of coaching and just an incredible mentor, coach, friend now. Played for her for 4 years, served as a team captain for my senior year, and then my junior year is the one everyone always talks about. That was our Elite Eight year, where the women's basketball team made it to Elite Eight in the NCAA tournament, and it was
Hmm.
just an incredible experience. Though nothing I could ever compare it to. It's just incredible to be able to have that moment and have those times with teammates, and then compete at that level. So
Let me ask you this, since Jeff Judkins is a good friend of mine. Talk
yeah.
about, because I know he did an incredible job down at the Y, would have been there at that time. Talk about some of the battles you had with them.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I know Juddy really well because he recruited me when I was in
Mm.
Texas, and so it really came down for me. My decision is it was where the money was. Judkins didn't have a scholarship at the time, and my recruiting class was full, and I thought the world of BYU at the time. I really wanted to go to Utah as well, so yeah, huge rivalry, obviously. They were, in our conference, so we played them twice a year. It was an absolute battle every single time. Many conference championship games came down between the two of us, but it was heated. Let's just put it like that. It was definitely intense and heated, but a lot of fun. And Juddy's still great. He was at Utah just a couple years back, and I would take my teams there and
Right.
still talk to him. Still is great, great coach, great guy, but never got the chance to play for him.
Well, let me have you talk now about then your, I would assume your middle school years, maybe even your elementary years. You played basketball collegiately, so you would have had to have picked up those skills somewhere. So talk about the early
Yeah.
years in South Jordan and obviously in Oklahoma and then on into Dallas.
Okay. So in Utah, I grew up playing like most kids in Utah do junior jazz. So I played just junior jazz basketball. I have three brothers, and we grew up just always with the ball in our hands. We never, we always were playing sports. I also played softball and golfed as a little kid. And then when we went to Oklahoma, I realized really fast that junior jazz was not probably enough to keep me competitive. And so
Right.
I had my first taste of AAU basketball. I played with a club. I got picked up there.
Oh.
When I first moved down there, I was about 6 feet tall as a sixth grader, and uh, teams obviously wanted height. And so I had my first AAU experience. I think I was 13. We went to AAU Nationals in Orlando, and kind of that's where my love for competition really grew. And then when I went down to Texas, I actually moved into my high school on a Monday. There were some family things. It was just a really quick move. My dad's company headquarters moved, and the very first high school game was the next day on a Tuesday. And so I practiced with the team on Monday. I was a freshman. I guess the coaches decided I was good enough to make the team, and couldn't
Hmm.
play varsity for I think it was like a month. I had to sit out because I had to move in.
Move in,
Um,
sure.
yeah, and then I played there for 4 years. I had an amazing coach. She's one of the winningest coaches in Texas. Her name's Kit Martin. Her Kit Kyle is who I played for. Now her married name is Martin. Played
Hmm.
for 4 years and had an incredible experience, and lots of AU basketball, travel basketball. I played golf in high school, but Texas is very possessive of their athletes, and so I didn't have a chance to. Beyond my sophomore year, they made me choose whether I was going to play golf or basketball. So I picked
Hmm.
basketball. But
In college, what position did you play?
so I
You
was
like a
a
1-2, you
forward.
were a 3-4, so yeah, the three or
Yeah,
the
like
four.
a four. I was a four player. I was not quite big enough to play the five. I was a little bit undersized as a post, but I had decent skills on the outside, and so I was a four player. And yeah, it was a great experience. I don't know, All-American Kim Smith was a year older than me, and she was my same
Hmm.
position, so I learned a lot from her, and it was an awesome experience.
That's incredible. Let's have you share with our audience some of the mentors and leaders you had in your life, both as a young lady and then once you started in teaching high school.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of mentioned her just barely, but my high school coach, she was an incredible mentor. She was a young coach when I played for her. She was really vocal and boisterous and excited and loud. And at first, it was hard to play for her. It was hard as a kid to understand what her motives were, but I grew to love her way of coaching and her type of coaching. So she was the one that really helped me see that I could play beyond high school. Um, I had an AEU coach who helped me a ton in the recruiting path. He had a lot of connections, and he knew I wanted to play in Utah, and so he helped me get filmed to the right places. And his name's Gene Smith. And then really, I think Elaine Elliott is probably the most prominent mentor I've been around. I mean, she even this year came on a podcast or a Zoom call with all of my team that I'm coaching at Union. I'm the girls basketball coach there, and Elaine was more than happy to drop everything she was doing and meet with our team for an hour. And then in the professional standpoint, I started my coaching career with Andrew Blanchard. He's at West Jordan now. He's an administrator. Um,
Former guest on the podcast,
oh,
as
well,
Juddy was also a former guest on the podcast.
yes. So Andrew and I started coaching. His first head coaching job was at Mountain View, and I was his assistant, and we didn't know each other. We were hired, and our first year coaching together, we won a state championship and just learned a ton about how to coach. And really, like, I was fresh out of college, so um, lots learned from him. And then I went to Springville from there and had the opportunity to be mentored by Kathy Jarvis, who is like a AD
Hmm.
legend in Utah. She's I think I saw her just before our AD conference down in St. George, and she mentioned that when she was an athletic director, she was one of the only female athletic directors in the state. I don't know what the numbers are for sure, but that was sure cool to
When
learn from her.
when she started, and I'm going back years and years, but I can remember when I first got to know her when we were both quite younger, but the numbers have changed now. But there was a time when there was very few female ADs in the state.
Yeah, she
So,
definitely was a pioneer that way, and she has so much experience. And And then, as she left, I was there at Springville when she retired, and Mark Binks and Lisa Walker were both just pioneers and what I was learning from them every day. Still, Lisa, I texted her just yesterday. My son pitched in the state championship game, and I was able to text Lisa, and it's a cool connection that I had from Springville. And then um, now I'm at Union, and so now Union, our AD when I moved out here was Jesse Fieldstead, and
Hmm.
he's a really good friend. And then Matt Labram and I have he took over as the head AD this year and asked me to be his assistant, and so it's been cool to work with them in that different capacity now as more of a AD role that I haven't had before. So.
Let me ask you this. How many years have you been at Union then?
This is my fourth year teaching at Union and my second year as the assistant AD.
Fourth year. So I'm trying to think back. One of the kids that I helped coach when I was helping my son-in-law at corner, but I think he may have graduated before you got there. Jackson Rasmussen.
Yeah.
And then he had a brother, Carson Rasmussen,
hmm
that both played football out there.
Yeah, I knew Jackson. My first year teaching, he was a senior. So I didn't know him well, but I knew who he was. He's a good athlete.
Yeah, I just call him J Ras. So
Yeah.
that's how that goes.
Yep.
Well, that's incredible. So now let me ask you this: was when you were at Springville, was Everett the principal there, or had he moved on?
Nope, he was my principal. So he was the principal for about half the time I was at Springville. So he
Okay,
was hired on. He was at the district office and they brought him back to be my principal or our principal. But I want to say my last 3 years at Springville, he was my principal. So yeah.
perfect. Let me ask you a little bit of a personal question here, Camie. What's your biggest failure or disappointment in life, and what did you learn from it?
So I really struggled when I got this question from you kind of as a preface. Like that was a hard one because I don't feel like I have a lot of failures. I feel like I have lot of things I've struggled with, but I've really tried to not look at them as failures. So I love that you say, what did I learn from it? But probably the most challenging thing I've been through was at Utah. I had a really severe shoulder injury where my right shoulder, my shooting arm, would dislocate many times. And so after my sophomore year, I had a shoulder surgery to correct it. I battled back. And then my junior year, the Elite Eight year, I played some here and there, but I just really struggled to recover from that surgery. And I was finally feeling good. My senior year started, and my left shoulder did the exact same thing.
Mm,
Um, and so I ended up with two shoulder surgeries. The second one was at Christmas of my senior year. And I remember thinking at that time, I had two choices. I had a choice to sit at the end of the bench and be sad and pout, or I had the choice to sit next to Elaine Elliott and to Carolyn Dehoff and to listen to them and learn. And that's probably the most defining professional moment of my career because I made that decision that I wanted to be a coach at that time. And I was able to listen to just these masters of coaching and get involved and see things the way they saw them. And I probably learned more about my own ability and my own strengths as a coach by sitting there that year. And I look back now and it really defined, like, I have a motto that I live by that's kind of from that, and it's that no grit, no pearl. And the idea is that, sorry, I think my video just cut out on you. Are you still there?
nope, you're still good.
Okay. The idea is that you have to go through the really hard stuff in order to get your full potential. And that's kind of become my life motto. Like I joke with my health classes when we talk about, being positive and things like that, that one day I'll have that tattooed on my arm somewhere because it's just this like powerful thing that I've learned. And it started at Utah when I went through those hard things.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing that. Let me ask you a follow-up now about girls basketball. And I asked this, and you wouldn't know this, but I started at Jordan High in 1979 and coached girls basketball for 10 years.
Okay.
And so that's somewhere in that 10 years would have been when you were born.
Yeah.
And so my question is, I think back of, it's funny because I remember I took my girls to Juddy's camp back when it was
Uh-huh.
the 4J camp
Yeah.
at Highland, and so long ago. But I'm wondering from your perspective, because girls basketball in the 80s just isn't the same as girls basketball is now. I want you to talk about at least the changes you've seen uh, in your experience playing and
Yeah. I
coaching.
mean, just in the time I've coached, it's just grown immensely. I mean, my first job with Andrew Blanchard, I was right out of college, and so it was 2008 was my first season coaching. Um, and I remember growing up in Utah. I think 11 or 12. I probably was 11 when the WNBA had their inaugural season, and the Utah Stars were here. And I remember going to a Utah Stars game and watching. I'll always remember it because I got all of their autographs. It was like a super cool moment for an 11-year-old. But
Mm.
Rebecca Lobo and some of those big names
Hmm.
now that at the time that was just so rare for girls to have that kind of role model in sports. We didn't have that. And now you fast forward to now, you know, and you look at all of the stars and how, Utah is really just becoming an awesome basketball state as far as the University of Utah, BYU. Like, there's so many powerful things going on with it. It just has done a complete shift and a complete change in that way. So it's really cool to see, and it's cool. I have a daughter that's playing, and it's cool to have her involved in it, and just to see the growth is incredible.
Let me ask you this, since I've had mostly a good time coaching my boys, but as a dad, I made some mistakes. So what's it like uh, to coach your own daughter?
Every kid is different. There's no way I could coach my son. He does not want to hear it from me. He wants me to be his mom. Um, But my daughter's different. She loves to be around her friends and she wants to work hard. And not that my son didn't, but she's okay to listen to what I have to say. I have found, though, that most powerful thing is to have good assistant coaches around me. And a lot of times the coaching is better received or more um, impactful, I guess the word could be, if it comes from someone else on our staff. But I can tell you there's nothing more rewarding than being on the sidelines of the state tournament with your kid on the floor. It's the coolest experience. Just this year, she was a sophomore and we made a run late in the tournament, and it was a really cool experience to have her down there. And she earned her spot and she proved to everyone why she was there. And it was really an incredible thing.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you now about the UIAAA and how you got involved, because I'm not sure up until this year I had met you before the conference this year. And
Yeah.
so how does that come about?
Um,
I assume maybe Phil Bertosh had a little bit to do with that, but I don't know for
yeah.
sure.
A little. I mean, Philip is great. It was really because Matt Labrum and Jesse Fieldstead, they invited me to go last year and I wasn't able to make it. But we just are really trying to, I for one, I'm in the middle of a master's project program getting my school administration um, or school leadership, and I want to go the direction of the athletic director and make that something more permanent. But they just said if you want to do that, it's the best way to, really understand what an athletic director is doing and to get down there and be around like-minded people. So they just encouraged me to go. And I think Philip was amazing because he was willing to send two from our school rather than just the one. And so I was so grateful that I had that chance. It was cool to get down there and network, and really it was my first opportunity to see what it's all about. And I was so impressed. I went home and told my husband, and then told our principal, like, this is where I want to be. Like, I love that feeling of everyone down there and the connections and that atmosphere. So it was a cool thing to get me involved in.
Let me follow up on that. So I've talked to so many different people when they've attended their first UIAAA conference, and of course, um, as you may know, I was the executive director before Everett took over
Hmm.
for 25 years. And so we, meaning me and all the UIAAA staff, put so much into that conference. I'm interested as a first-time attendee if you had preconceived notions about what it would be like. Did it exceed that? I mean, I know you've mentioned a little bit about how great it was to network, which is one of the things we pride ourselves on, but we really pride ourselves on the UI AAA family. But I'm interested in your opinion or your what came to you being a first-time attendee.
Yeah. I do feel a little bit guilty because I didn't get to be there for the classes and things Thursday. We had a funeral, a family funeral that I had to attend
Mm,
Thursday. So I missed those. But I was very impressed with all of the breakout sessions, all of the general sessions. Um, I guess I never understood the amount I don't know the word for it, but work that goes into it behind the
mm,
scenes. Like but I
yes.
would every breakout, I mean, I just loved it. I loved hearing about the legal side of things, and I really enjoyed being able to sit in on the one that was designed just for the female athletic directors that could
Hmm.
go and talk
Which is
about,
where we met, if
yes,
I'm
and
not mistaken. Yeah,
yeah, it's such an awesome um, thing to see how much education is really there for athletic directors. Like I really was not aware of all of that that went on, and so I think it exceeded my expectations. I knew I was going down there, but I didn't really know what I was getting into, if that makes sense. Like I wasn't exactly sure what I was coming to. So
sure. Let me ask you this, and you've only been what, an assistant AD for 2 years.
yeah,
Have you seen changes just in the 2 years that you've been in the athletic director field?
yeah. I mean, I guess as an athletic director, I'm not doing all of the same work that our head athletic director is doing. He's doing a lot more of the, behind the scenes, but I think that one of the things I've noticed as a coach as well in the last 2 years, and maybe athletic director side, is I know there's been some big changes with transfer policies and transfer rules with athletes, and um, there's always I think I've learned the most that the athletic director is like a fluid position. There's always something happening. There's
Hmm.
always it's not just showing up and attending games and supervising, which I think is kind of I know that's one of the questions you asked, but it's kind of like a common misconception that that's what athletic directors do, is they just oversee. And I think my eyes have really been open to um, how much is done behind the scenes, how many things are so important that they are achieved, but nobody understands who's doing it. We don't know who's doing it behind the scenes, and usually it's the athletic directors taking place or taking, those initiatives.
That is well said. Thank you for sharing that. Let me ask you this, Camie. What's the favorite part of your job?
I think my favorite part of, as the time I've been working is it really is being around the athletes and really mentoring or partnering up with the coaches. Um, I think that as I worked with Mark Binks and Kathy Jarvis, I think that as a coach, I maybe took for granted what they did for me. As an athletic director,
Hmm.
they were incredible at Springville. I never set up a gym, I never did any of that. And it's the same at Union. And I think that maybe we take for granted what our athletic directors are doing. And so I've just really loved, working with the coaches hand in hand and seeing how we can lighten the load for them and make their job a little bit easier. But also really seeing the athletes and connecting with them. And it means so much to these kids to see us at their games and to see us on the sidelines and to see us advocating for them. And I think that's what I like the most.
Perfect. Now, let me ask you this from a female perspective, because you mentioned Kathy Jarvis earlier, and I knew Kathy way back in the early 90s, probably in the late 80s,
Yeah.
and when there was not a whole lot of female athletic directors. Do you feel, at least in Utah, that I shouldn't say female athletic directors have arrived, but I like to think in Utah, at least, we're a little bit more open to athletic directors of any male or female, where I know some states it's still the good old boys. And so I'm interested in your take, your outlook on when you're at the conference or dealing with people in your region, if you feel like, oh, you're a woman? No, or you feel like you're treated equally?
Oh, I think that I'm definitely treated equally, and I think as I've observed and kind of seen, I mean, our region itself has quite a few, or our area, quite a few athletic directors who are, female athletic directors, and I think as we've gone throughout the state and the people I've interacted with, I feel like Utah treats them very equally, and I think there's a lot of equality, and I think a lot of respect, mutual respect, from, just in general. Like I don't think it's a male dominant. And sorry, my computer keeps beeping and I cannot get it to
No,
stop.
you're fine.
I don't think it's a male dominant profession anymore. I think it's definitely transitioning, and there's a lot of women who have worked really hard to make that happen. Someone I didn't mention that just her name just popped into my head was Jeannie Wilson. She was my
Hmm.
athletic director when I was hired at Mountain View, and she took a chance on me. And um, I'm so grateful for women who have worked hard. So now it feels easy. Now it feels like there's a path, and I feel like, when the time comes and I'm ready to really step into that role, that it will be there. And that's exciting to me.
So Jeannie, if I'm not mistaken, then former girls basketball coach from Hillcrest, then
Mhm.
moved down to Mountain View because I think I may have coached against her and lost back in the 80s. That's how old I am. So
She's a
yeah, thanks
good,
for
good
bringing
coach
that
for
up.
sure.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, no question. Let's finish up with a couple of questions. The first one being this, and I realize that you're newer in the profession, but I always ask this of all my guests. You've got two suggestions for a brand new athletic director, and they need to follow Camie's two suggestions in order to become successful. What would those two suggestions be?
The first suggestion I can think of is to lean into the mentors that you have. Don't be afraid to ask questions, whether that be to your principal, to, other athletic directors in the state. Um, I think that was probably one of my biggest takeaways, like I've kind of mentioned from the conferences, um, that people are there to help. And so don't feel like you have to be on an island or you have to be alone. Um, the second thing I would say from my experience is that I would really link arms with the coaches at your school and make sure that you know that, or that they know that you're their advocate, that you're there for them. I've seen that happen, not with me personally, them linking arm. I mean, I'm kind of the helper right now, like I'm leaning into that, but I've had our athletic director give me that confidence as a coach, and I know how much that means. So that's what my advice would be, is to really lean into the mentors and the coaches in your circle, and not be afraid to reach out of your circle for more help.
Great suggestions. Thanks for sharing that. We'll finish with this. Camie, what question should I have asked you that I failed to ask?
Um, I honestly don't know. I think it's a great conversation to be having, and I appreciate you offering to, giving me a spot to be on here. I think it's a great privilege. So I don't have a question that I should wish you would have asked, but um, I just appreciate the opportunity.
No. On that note, that wraps up this edition of the UIAAA Connection. Again, our special guest today has been Camie Oakey, the Assistant Director of Athletics at Union High School, in addition to being the girls' basketball coach and a health teacher. Camie, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
For our listeners, we hope you tune in again next week for another edition of the UIAAA Connection.